There is a strange truth about human nature that many people spend years trying to understand. We often believe that every criticism deserves an answer, every insult requires a response, and every challenge demands our immediate attention. Yet the wisest individuals understand something different. They realize that attention is a limited resource, and wherever it is invested repeatedly, life begins to follow. The greatest victories are often achieved not through confrontation, but through the disciplined choice to ignore what does not deserve your energy. One of the greatest signs of wisdom is recognizing that not every battle deserves your attention. Human nature often encourages immediate reactions. When someone criticizes you, spreads rumors, challenges your opinions, or behaves disrespectfully, the instinct is to defend yourself and prove them wrong. At first, this reaction feels justified because people naturally want to protect their reputation and dignity. However, constantly responding to every conflict slowly drains your emotional energy and distracts you from what truly matters. Every argument demands time, attention, and mental focus that could have been invested in personal growth, meaningful work, or healthy relationships. Not every disagreement is an opportunity to win. Many are simply distractions disguised as important issues. Learning to distinguish between problems that require action and situations that deserve silence is a mark of emotional maturity. Some people seek conflict not because they want understanding, but because they want your attention. The moment you react impulsively, they succeed in pulling you away from your priorities and into their emotional world. Refusing to participate is not weakness. It is the disciplined decision to protect your peace and direct your energy where it can create positive results. This principle applies to every area of life. In relationships, not every misunderstanding requires endless explanation. Sometimes consistent actions communicate more clearly than repeated words. In professional settings, not every criticism deserves a defensive response. Constructive feedback should be considered carefully, while unnecessary negativity can often be ignored without consequence. In everyday life, countless distractions compete for your focus, from arguments on social media to comparisons with people whose lives have no influence on your own future. Human psychology tends to magnify immediate emotional experiences, making every challenge appear urgent. Yet, with reflection, many of these situations reveal themselves to be temporary and insignificant. Choosing your battles wisely allows you to preserve your attention for goals that genuinely deserve commitment. It also strengthens your confidence because you no longer feel compelled to prove yourself in every conversation. Your self-worth becomes rooted in your principles rather than in winning debates or receiving approval. Over time, this habit creates remarkable emotional stability. People begin to notice that you are not easily drawn into unnecessary conflict because your priorities remain clear. By understanding that not every battle deserves your attention, you gain the freedom to invest your energy where it produces lasting growth, stronger character, healthier relationships, and a life guided by purpose instead of endless reaction. Disrespect has the power to disturb your peace only when you allow it to control your attention. Many people believe that every insult, criticism, or act of unfair treatment must be answered immediately in order to protect their reputation. However, this reaction often gives the other person exactly what they wanted: your time, your emotions, and your focus. Human nature is highly responsive to emotional triggers. When someone knows they can provoke anger, frustration, or insecurity with a few words, they gain influence over your emotional state. Choosing to ignore unnecessary disrespect is not a sign of weakness or surrender. It is a deliberate decision to protect your inner peace and preserve your dignity. There is an important difference between accepting abuse and refusing to participate in pointless conflict. Healthy boundaries should always be maintained, especially in situations involving repeated mistreatment or harm. Yet many everyday acts of disrespect are designed merely to provoke a reaction rather than solve a problem. Responding emotionally often escalates the situation, while calm restraint prevents unnecessary conflict from growing larger. Human psychology naturally respects people who remain composed under pressure because emotional stability reflects confidence and self-control. When your sense of worth is rooted in your own values rather than in other people's opinions, insults lose much of their power. You no longer feel responsible for correcting every misunderstanding or defending yourself against every careless remark. Instead, you evaluate whether the criticism contains useful truth. If it does, you learn from it. If it does not, you allow it to pass without giving it unnecessary importance. This mindset protects both your mental energy and your emotional health. It also strengthens your relationships because you become less reactive and more thoughtful in moments of tension. Instead of allowing temporary emotions to guide your behavior, you respond according to your principles. Over time, this creates a quiet confidence that others notice. They see someone who values peace more than arguments and dignity, more than the need to have the last word. Ignoring disrespect does not mean pretending painful experiences never happened. It means refusing to let another person's behavior determine your emotional state or distract you from your purpose. By protecting your inner peace with calm judgment and maintaining your dignity through self-control, you develop a strength that cannot easily be shaken by criticism, provocation, or the changing opinions of others, allowing your character to remain stronger than the negativity directed toward you. Silence is often misunderstood because many people assume that power belongs to the person who speaks the most, argues the longest, or always has the final word. In reality, silence can communicate confidence, emotional discipline, and self-respect more effectively than endless explanations. Human nature often expects immediate reactions. When someone criticizes you, misunderstands your intentions, or attempts to provoke an argument, they frequently anticipate a response. The moment you react impulsively, you place yourself inside the emotional situation they have created. However, when you choose silence instead of unnecessary confrontation, you demonstrate that your emotions are guided by your own judgment rather than by another person's behavior. This does not mean remaining silent situations where honesty, justice, or important communication is required. Rather, it means recognizing that many conversations produce more conflict than clarity. Not every accusation deserves a defense, and not every misunderstanding can be solved through additional words. People often reveal their character through consistent actions, not through carefully constructed explanations. The same principle applies to you. When your behavior consistently reflects integrity, responsibility, and respect, there is less need to constantly convince others of your intentions. Human psychology naturally notices calmness because it is uncommon. While others react emotionally, the individual who remains composed appears more thoughtful and trustworthy. Silence also creates space for observation. Instead of becoming consumed by defending yourself, you begin paying closer attention to what other people say, how they behave, and what their actions truly reveal. This understanding leads to wiser decisions because you respond to reality rather than to emotional assumptions. Relationships also improve when silence is used with wisdom. During moments of tension, a calm pause often prevents hurtful words that cannot easily be taken back. It allows emotions to settle and encourages more respectful communication later. At the same time, silence can reveal who genuinely seeks understanding and who merely seeks conflict. Those who value the relationship will eventually approach the conversation with greater maturity, while those interested only in provoking a reaction often lose interest when they receive none. By allowing silence to replace unnecessary explanations, you protect your peace, preserve your dignity, and strengthen your emotional discipline. Over time, your actions become more convincing than your words because people judge your character by the consistency of your behavior rather than by the length of your arguments. making silence not an escape from communication, but a deliberate expression of confidence, wisdom, and self-control. Your attention is one of the most valuable resources you possess because it determines the quality of your thoughts, the direction of your actions, and ultimately the course of your life. Every day, countless people, situations, and distractions compete for your focus. Social media notifications, unnecessary arguments, criticism, gossip, comparison, and endless entertainment all seek to capture your attention. Human psychology is naturally drawn toward novelty and emotional stimulation, making it easy to become distracted without even realizing it. Yet every moment you invest your attention in something unimportant is a moment you cannot invest in becoming stronger, wiser, or more capable. This is why attention is a form of personal power. Wherever your attention repeatedly goes, your energy follows, and whatever receives your energy gradually grows stronger. If you constantly focus on negativity, resentment, and the opinions of others, those influences begin shaping your mindset. On the other hand, if you direct your attention toward learning, meaningful work, healthy relationships, and disciplined habits, your character and abilities steadily improve. The difference between an average life and an exceptional one is often determined not by intelligence or talent alone, but by the ability to consistently focus on what truly matters. Protecting your attention requires conscious discipline because distractions rarely announce themselves as distractions. They usually appear urgent, emotional, or entertaining. A careless comment may tempt you into an argument. Someone else's success may tempt you into comparison. A temporary setback may tempt you into endless worry. However, emotionally mature individuals understand that not every thought deserves attention and not every situation deserves a reaction. They choose their focus intentionally instead of allowing the outside world to decide it for them. This habit creates remarkable clarity because the mind becomes less crowded with unnecessary concerns. Decisions become easier since your priorities remain clear, and emotional stability increases because your peace no longer depends on every event happening around you. Relationships also improve because the attention you give becomes more genuine and meaningful instead of being divided among countless distractions. By treating your attention as a valuable resource rather than something to be spent carelessly, you strengthen your ability to think clearly, act deliberately, and remain committed to your long-term purpose. In time, this disciplined focus becomes one of your greatest sources of strength, allowing you to build a life directed by your own values and ambitions instead of by the endless demands and distractions competing for your mind each day. Emotional detachment is often confused with becoming cold, distant, or uncaring, but its true meaning is far more powerful. It is the ability to experience emotions without allowing them to control your decisions. Human nature is deeply emotional. We naturally seek approval, fear rejection, and react strongly to criticism or praise. These responses are normal, but when they begin directing every choice you make, they create opportunities for manipulation. Anyone who understands your emotional triggers can influence your behavior simply by controlling your feelings. If praise causes you to abandon your principles or criticism immediately destroys your confidence, your emotions have become your greatest weakness. Emotional detachment breaks this pattern by creating space between what you feel and how you respond. Instead of reacting instantly, you pause, observe the situation, and evaluate it with reason. This brief moment of awareness changes everything because it allows you to act according to your values rather than your impulses. Human psychology naturally respects people who remain composed during moments of pressure. Calmness communicates confidence because it shows that your inner stability is not dependent on changing circumstances. Emotional detachment also strengthens your relationships. Instead of becoming possessive, anxious, or overly dependent, you allow people the freedom to make their own choices while maintaining your own self-respect. You stop chasing those who repeatedly show indifference, and you stop allowing temporary emotions to determine your long-term decisions. This mindset protects you from unnecessary disappointment because your happiness is no longer built entirely upon another person's behavior. It is important to understand that detachment is not the absence of love or compassion. You can care deeply while still maintaining emotional balance. You can forgive without forgetting important lessons, and you can remain kind without allowing yourself to be repeatedly mistreated. This balance creates genuine confidence because your peace comes from within rather than from external approval. Over time, emotional detachment becomes a source of quiet strength. Manipulation loses its influence because your reactions become thoughtful instead of automatic. Fear loses much of its control because you no longer depend on constant reassurance. Your decisions become clearer because they are guided by principles instead of temporary emotions. By mastering emotional detachment, you develop resilience, strengthen your judgment, and build a confidence that remains steady through success, criticism, uncertainty, and change, allowing your character to lead your life instead of your emotions. A meaningful life is built by focusing on your purpose while allowing unnecessary distractions to fade into the background. Every day, countless situations compete for your attention. Some invite comparison, others provoke anger, and many promise instant gratification without creating lasting value. Human nature is naturally attracted to these distractions because they provide immediate emotional stimulation. Yet the more your attention is divided, the more difficult it becomes to make meaningful progress toward the life you truly want. Purpose acts as a compass. It gives direction to your decisions and reminds you what deserves your energy and what does not. When you have a clear vision of who you want to become, it becomes much easier to ignore criticism that offers no value, arguments that solve nothing, and relationships that repeatedly drain your emotional well-being. You begin measuring your days not by how much attention you received, but by how much progress you made. This shift transforms your mindset because your satisfaction comes from growth instead of approval. Human psychology naturally respects individuals who possess clear direction. They appear calm because they are not constantly pulled in different directions by every opinion or temporary emotion. Their confidence grows quietly through consistent action rather than dramatic displays. Focusing on your purpose also strengthens emotional resilience. Setbacks become lessons instead of reasons to quit, and rejection becomes information rather than a judgment of your worth. Instead of asking why someone failed to recognize your value, you ask whether your actions are moving you closer to your goals. This perspective keeps your attention where it belongs, on what you can control. Relationships improve as well because you stop expecting other people to provide the meaning that only purpose can create. You appreciate genuine support, but your identity is no longer dependent on constant validation. As your commitment to your purpose deepens, many distractions naturally lose their appeal. Gossip becomes less interesting, comparison becomes less frequent, and unnecessary conflict no longer feels worth your energy. You begin protecting your attention because you understand that it shapes your future. Every hour invested in learning, creating, practicing, or improving becomes another step toward becoming the person you aspire to be. By remaining focused on your purpose and allowing unnecessary distractions to disappear without resistance, you develop a life marked by clarity, discipline, emotional stability, and quiet confidence, proving that true success is achieved not by reacting to everything around you, but by remaining committed to what genuinely matters every single day.